everyone, welcome to Killer Hair Chronicles. My name is Brittany, and today I'm going to be making a wig out of this hair, the Vice Bundles 3-time multi-pack hair. I bought this hair off of Amazon quite some time ago. I just haven't done anything with the bundles, so today I'm just going to be making a wig. And while I'm making this wig, we're going to be talking about Dr. Glennon Engleman. So let's jump right into this case. Dr. Glennon Engleman was born on February 6, 1927, and he was the youngest of 4 children. He was raised in middle class, and he lived in a nice home that his parents owned. And also academically, he was an above average student. He ended up joining the U.S. Army Air Corps, and shortly after, he used his GI Bill benefits to attend Washington University. And in 1954, he graduated, becoming a dentist, and he opened up a dental practice on the south side of St. Louis. Dr. Glennon Engleman was married to a woman by the name of Edna Ruth, but in 1956 they divorced. By 1958 they both had entered new marriages. Edna ended up meeting a man by the name of James Stanley Bullock, and they got married. But just 5.5 months after they got married, James met his demise by a gunshot wound. An employee at a local sanitarium initially reported that James had sought admission 4 days prior to his murder, expressing concerns for his safety. But Edna and his aunt disputed that claim, saying that both of them had dinner with him on the night in question. And they said that James never said anything to them about him being in fear for his life, and they were not aware if anybody was trying to cause him harm. Ruth experienced financial gain following the death of her husband James. She held life insurance policies amounting up to $64,000. During the police interrogations, Ruth had said that she was previously married, but James never knew. So it kind of raised questions about her previous marriage, was to Glennon. So James and his family didn't know that she was married before her and James. And she also lied on the marriage application. And local police investigated a local criminal who was out at the time, but they couldn't connect him to the murder of James. But they did make a mental note that James' residence was in close proximity of Dr. Glennon's dental practice. Dr. Glennon and Edna both refused to take a polygraph examination. And additionally, Dr. Glennon's new wife, Ida, refused to cooperate as well. A patient did provide Dr. Glennon an alibi. However, another witness came forward and said that when they tried to visit Dr. Glennon's office, the office was unoccupied. After becoming a widow, Edna took a portion of her life insurance money and she invested it into Dr. Glennon's office. And despite rumors of him being involved in James's murder, he continued to treat patients at his dental office. Shortly after this happened, he went into business with a man by the name of Eric Frey at the Pacific Drag Race Strip, and they developed a close friendship, and he also developed a close friendship with Eric's wife, Sandy. On September 26, 1963, while at the drag race strip, he and Eric were using dynamite to demolish and fill in abandoned cisterns. And cisterns are just underground tanks used for storing water. Tragically, Eric was lying next to one of the cisterns when the dynamite detonated unexpectedly, resulting in his death. And his body was found at the bottom of the cistern. And the coroner, H.D. Steinbeck, ruled his death accidental. And notably, Sandy had took out life insurance policies on him. And guess what she did? Guess what she did? She invested a portion of that into Dr. Glennon's dentist office. Close friends, my ass. Dr. Glennon and Ruth got a divorce, and he had entered a new marriage with his third wife by the name of Ruth in 1967, and they also shared a son together. And Ruth noticed how her husband had a close bond with a young woman by the name of Carmen Miranda, and she worked in his office. So she was like, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" And Dr. Glennon said that he was supposed to be training Carmen as a dental assistant, but they were having like flirtatious interactions. Like they were trying to be all flirty, trying to be all cute. Like, "You're married, sir. Stop that." Nevertheless, he maintained that his only intentions were to help people out in his community. And at one point, he ended up hiring Carmen's brother, Nick. And Ruth was relieved once Carmen married a man by the name of Peter Home. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Peter Home, Halm, or Helm. I don't know. However, just a few months later, while Carmen and Peter were walking in a rural area of Pacific, Missouri, something tragic happened. They were exploring a region known for its caves and picturesque trails when a gunshot rang out, hitting Peter in the head, and he was unalive instantly. And Carmen sought for help. Nearby authorities discovered an X marked on a tree with tape, and locals recognized the area to be a common hunting ground, leading the police to believe that the shot was fired accidentally and it was intended for the X that was marked on the tree. Carmen held a life insurance policy on her husband amounting to $60,000, which is equivalent to $312,000. And then what make it so bad, Dr. Glennon ended up divorcing Ruth, and then him and Carmen ended up getting married. And despite him being married to Carmen, he was still being intimate with Ruth and Sandy. Y'all remember Sandy? That was Eric's Frey's wife. Trifling, man. Trifling. On November 3rd, 1977, an individual posing as a representative from the Farm Bureau entered a farmhouse belonging to Arthur and Vernita Geiswell in Edwardsville, Illinois. And when the elderly couple entered their residence, they were both shot in the head. And they left their son $340,000 in life insurance money. And get this. So Ronald is the husband of a lady named Barbara Boyle. And Barbara is a patient of Dr. Glennon's. And peep this. Dr. Glennon and Barbara were bumping uglies as well. Yeah. And just 17 months after his parents passed away, Ronald was found deceased in his car outside of a hotel in East St. Louis. He had been severely beaten and he had gunshot wounds. And Ronald had been missing 4 days prior to being found. And after he passed away, Barbara inherited his money that his parents had left him, plus the insurance policies that she had on him, and all of the money equaled up to $1.7 million. And you know what she did? She shared a portion of that with Dr. Glennon. Okay. Dr. Glennon was not skilled as a dentist, He produced subpar casts for dentures and dental appliances, leading to multiple corrections by the dental lab, and it led him to financial difficulties with the dental lab owned by a woman by the name of Sophie Barrera. Sophie grew frustrated with Dr. Glennon because he had failed to pay off his debts with the lab, and she took legal action against him. But on January 14th, 1980, Sophie entered her car, and a few moments later, the car blew up. And investigators found remnants of a bomb underneath her car. And just prior to her death, she told her son that she was in fear for her life because of Dr. Glennon. And the trial was scheduled just days after her murder. Dr. Glennon was interrogated for 3 hours and then released. So the police, they knew he had something to do with it. It was just a problem of them getting the evidence that shows that he had something to do with it. And also the public was like looking at him sideways, like, initially the public was saying that they thought the mob was the ones behind all of the murders that were happening, but the police soon said, no, it's not the mob. It's his ass that's doing all of this. The police initially came up with a game plan, and they reached out to Ruth, who was Dr. Glennon's ex-wife and the mother of his only child. So when they reached out to her, they were like, can you give us any information? Can you tell us what's going on? What's happening with him? And at first she was like, no, I ain't trying to get involved. I ain't trying to get into that. I'm not trying to do none of that. But then she thought about it, and then she was like, okay, I'm finna spill the beans. I'm finna give you all the deets. I'm finna give you the gaga girl. I'm telling. So she told the police that he often boasted about his ability to kill without any remorse. And she also stated that he had confessed to her that he had murdered Eric Frey, Peter Hom, and the Goswell family. Even though Ruth was willing to assist law enforcement, her statements could not be utilized because he confessed all of this to her while they were still married. And that's what we call spousal privilege. So the investigators was like, plan A didn't work. Let's do plan B. Ruth opted to wear a wire, and she arranged meetings with Dr. Glennon to exchange their son and just to occasionally socialize. And Ruth attempted to make inquiries about the murders to get him to confess, but he was dodging them questions. And she kind of got scared because she thought, like, maybe he's dodging the questions, he's catching on to what I'm trying to do, maybe I'm next. So Ruth came up with another idea. She told the investigators, hey, maybe we should put a listening device in the bedroom, and then I'll just invite him over to be intimate. During a meeting at a diner while Ruth was wearing a wire, Dr. Glennon stated that he was homicidally intimate with one of the widows of his victims. He provided detailed admissions of the murders, and law enforcement was like, we got him. Following these events, Ruth was placed in a witness protection program, and she was granted a new fresh start in life. Carmen, alongside her brother Nick, was also summoned to corroborate the accusations against Dr. Glennon, and as potential co-conspirators, they both requested and was granted immunity for their testimonies against Dr. Glennon. Carmen told the investigators that while she was employed by Dr. Glennon, he had told her that she needed to find a spouse with substantial benefits. And he also told her about Eric Frey, and he told her that he told Sandy that she needed to marry with the intent to orchestrate murder and collect life insurance money. So that means that him and Sandy were already being intimate way before her and Eric got married. Trifling as hell. Trifling as hell. Shortly after her marriage, Carmen alleged that Dr. Glennon instructed her to the location where to go to ensure that her husband would be shot and unalive, and for it to resemble a target shooting accident. Dr. Glennon was ultimately apprehended and tried for murder in 1980. Carmen provided her testimony during Dr. Glennon's initial trial, which he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 50 years in prison for the murder of Peter Home, and he also pled guilty to the murder of Sophie Pereira to avoid the death penalty. While serving a life sentence for that crime in Missouri, Dr. Glennon found himself back in court by 1985 in Illinois. In 1984, Robert Handy, a convict and associate of Dr. Glennon's, confessed to his part in the murder conspiracy concerning the Goswell family. He implicated Dr. Glennon and Barbara Boyle, and for that he received 3 life sentences for the Goswell family. And it was to be said that he was responsible for the unaliving of 12 people. He was also convicted of federal mail fraud, and for that he received a 30-year sentence. It was said to believe that he was responsible for the murders of 12 individuals, including conspiracy with his first wife, Edna, to murder her husband, James Bullock. Barbara Boyle faced trial in 1985 for the conspiracy murder of her in-laws and her husband. The jury did not convict her of the murder of her in-laws, but she was found guilty for the conspiracy murder of her husband, Ronald. Consequently, Barbara Boyle received a 50-year sentence in 1985, and she was granted parole in 2009. Dr. Glennon passed away in 1999 at the age of 72 due to complications of diabetes while he was serving his term in Jefferson City. And that is it for this case. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I'm not even done with making this wig. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe as you wish. Until next time, bye.